The mind is a real existence independent of the physical world and physical logic. Part 10 on the theme of contemporary human confusion by Oriental philosophers. From ancient materialism to modern scientific rationality, there is a common concept. In their view, the human mind, the human spirit is only a manifestation of material logic, is a special phenomenon of material law. Mind and spirit are not independent of the material world, but parasitic on physical logic. Physical logic is the master of the whole existence, and mind and spirit are only a kind of phenomenon attached to the material world produced by physical logic. A judgment from ancient materialism to modern scientific rationality precisely constitutes a basic value basis for the materialization of the mind of contemporary human beings. In other words, one of the important philosophical reasons why contemporary human beings have embarked on the road of betraying the soul and making life materialized is that ancient materialism and modern scientific rationality jointly adhere to such a principled judgment. However, such a judgment is to regard the human mind and spirit as a kind of excrescence of physical logic, which seems to be an absurdity contrary to common sense. Why is it against common sense? As we have said before, human existence itself is a dualistic existence. One pole of human existence is the mind, the other pole of human existence is the body embodying the physical form. So that between these two degrees of being, they have different natures. The distance between these different natures, his difference, seems to be longer than the distance between finite and infinite. How is it possible to take such a disparate paradoxical structure and see their polarities as one and the same existence? This view is absurd because it is contrary to the constant diet of the human mind and the human body. We say that human beings are not only a dualistic structure but also a paradoxical structure. Mind and body are a paradox of existence. What is the expression of the body? It is the instinct of life and the form of matter. The body of the instinctive person is material in the form of existence, and he is limited because he cannot be free. The reason why he cannot be free is that a limited physical existence, he must be a slave of material logic. How can he get freedom, constitute another level of human life, that is, human mind and spirit? Then he is a kind of artistic existence beyond matter. It is not a kind of substantive existence, it is a kind of artistic existence. What is the existence of artistic conception? From the human mind, from the human spirit emerged from the will, beliefs, meaning, the aesthetic spirit of hard training, and so on. This series of spiritual concepts is the existence of artistic conception. The existence of artistic conception, he has no entity, he cannot use physical logic to prove. At the same time, he cannot use the senses to feel when you are beauty. Can you use your senses to touch the charm of that beauty? You can reach out your fingers and touch the hot lips of a beautiful woman, but can you use your senses and your fingers to touch the beauty that makes you swoon? What you can't prove with the logic of property, what you can't touch with your senses, is the existence of artistic conception. For example, you can put a fallen flower in your hand, but the fallen flower shows the poetry that moves you. Can you drag it in your hand? Therefore, all the existence that cannot be proved by an entity, cannot be proved by physical logic, cannot be touched by your senses, but can only be understood by your mind, that is called situational existence. And the existence of artistic conception is more real than the existence of physical nature that you can touch with your senses because it is closer to your mind. Human beings are imprisoned in the infinite artistic conception of the mind in a limited material form, which is the most classical expression of the paradox of human duality structure. On the one hand, man is extremely small in the form of material existence. Although he is a substantial existence, he is extremely small. In the vast universe, the earth is but a dust. Attached to this dust on the human body form, that is more insignificant can be ignored. At the same time, the human body and the human material form are the direct products of physical logic. Under the promotion and control of the physical logic, the human body cannot be free, and the human material form is not free, and it is a slave of physical logic. This is one aspect of the problem. But on the other hand, human beings, so small in material form, can proudly claim to be the only subject of knowledge in the universe. At least for now, the so-called exploration of aliens is just a legend. In the present state, in the face of the boundless universe, such an existence of the body as the slave of material logic, which is negligible in material form, he can claim that he is the only subject of the universe by means of his spiritual energy and that he takes the boundless universe composed of all things as the object, and at the same time, because of his soul. He is the existence of a kind of artistic conception. He cannot be proved by material logic, he cannot be touched by the senses, therefore, he has the possibility of infinity and freedom. The human body, human sensory form, even by means of the extension of modern radio telescopes, astronomical telescopes, and so on, is impossible for human beings to reach the edge of the finite universe by means of their own body or their own material form of existence. Man is limited, man cannot be free, let alone to achieve infinity and eternity, but man can think about eternity and infinity by virtue of his spiritual energy. The mind is the lips that man uses to kiss the eternal and the infinite, and the mind can even think of things beyond the eternal and the infinite, and of artistic conceptions beyond the eternal, thus becoming a being that transcends the eternal, beyond the infinite. The human body, human sensory form, even by means of the extension of modern radio telescopes, astronomical telescopes, and so on, is impossible for human beings to reach the edge of the finite universe by means of their own body or their own material form of existence. Man is limited, man cannot be free, let alone to achieve infinity and eternity, but man can think about eternity and infinity by virtue of his spiritual energy. The mind is the lips that man uses to kiss the eternal and the infinite, and the mind can even think of things beyond the eternal and the infinite, and of artistic conceptions beyond the eternal, thus becoming a being that transcends the eternal, beyond the infinite. What is freedom? It is in this sense, in the sense that the human mind can take the eternal and infinite as its own object of care, that the person is free and the mind is free because he transcends the fetters of physical logic in the finite universe. So at this point, we can come to the conclusion that, in the beginning, the ancient rough materialism of the past and the refined scientific rationality of the present are both confirmed by a principle. That's what? The human mind is a part of the physical universe, the human mind is the product of physical logic, the human spirit and mind are attached to the physical logic, which is a kind of absurdity against human common sense. Common sense is that, according to the experience of the human self, the human mind and the human body, that is, the material form, are two different kinds of existence in nature, and cannot be confused. Mind, as a kind of artistic existence, a kind of non-entity existence, transcends the logic of material nature and becomes an independent existence, which transcends the logic of material nature. We call it artistic existence. So, which is more real, the existence of an entity or the existence of artistic conception? For the material world, the existence of the entity is more real. But for people's destiny, the existence of artistic conception is more real than the actual existence. A person's life has passed, the existence of the entity disappeared, people can leave what is it? It is the meaning and value emerging from the soul. So for people, the existence of artistic conception is more real than the existence of entities. The reason is very simple because the existence of artistic conception is closer to the human mind. I once had a book called Artistic Conception Existence, so friends who are interested and have the ability to think, and hope to pay more attention to the subject of artistic conception existence can read this book.